Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Divorce Coach Diaries. I'm really excited to be here with you today for a few minutes, and I wanted to talk to you about an experience that I had with my daughter this week that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. So it started on Sunday when one of her friends told her and a group of their friends that her parents were separating and going to be getting divorced. And she told me this in the car after she left this group of friends. And she was crying and she just felt so sad, partly because she knows what that feels like. She can have true empathy for this friend of hers. So, fast forward to the next day. I picked her up from school and she shows me a book that she checked out from the library. And she had read maybe a chapter or so of it. And she said, I don't think I can read this book. It's about suicide. And that's really hard for me to read about. And I think I'm going to take it back and get a different book. And I just said, okay, yeah, it's up to you. Didn't really make much of it. But then I went to say goodnight to her later on that evening. And she was sitting in her chair reading this book still. And she said, Mom, I decided I'm going to keep reading this book because I'm trying to practice something. So, this daughter of mine loves mindfulness, loves learning about mental and emotional health. And she has this stack of affirmation cards. And she looks at this card every day and she switches it out about weekly. But her card of the week is in a spot that she can see it every day and she looks at it on purpose. And she really intentionally tries to grow her mental and emotional health by practicing these prompts on these cards. One of her recent cards read, I can have empathy without being consumed by struggles that are not mine to carry. She said, Mom, I'm trying to do this. And I really want to practice having empathy and not letting it consume me. Because when people tell me really hard things that they're going through, it's really hard for me to hear. And I get really sad with them. And I want to try to practice being empathetic without feeling so sad and overwhelmed by it all the time. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about this little interaction that I had with her for a couple of reasons. One, I am blown away by how emotionally and mentally literate these kids are. She's 14. I would not have even had words to put into some sort of idea like that, first of all. Second of all, I certainly was not thinking about anything like this when I was her age. And I'm so grateful and I am so thrilled for her that she is learning these skills so early. I also wanted to make sure that she knew that her being able to sit with people in their grief and their pain and really mourn with those who are mourning is such a beautiful part of her humanity and is something that she does not want to get rid of all the way. That is not the point. But I do understand why she wants to work on growing this muscle because that is such a beautiful space to be able to live in, to have empathy, true empathy for someone else, and not take on everything that isn't ours to take on. Because most of the time, say for instance, when her friend tells her that her parents are getting divorced, my daughter knows what that feels like and she can have true empathy for it. But in reality, she can't do anything to change her friend's circumstances. So that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about today. How is it that you can have empathy without being consumed by the struggles and challenges that aren't yours to carry and that you can't do anything about to change? I think this comes down to two main categories. The first is boundaries, and the second is learning how to care for yourself. So, again, let's talk for a second about what a boundary even is. It's not an ultimatum, it's not a way to control somebody else. A boundary is something that you will do to protect yourself so that you can love yourself better. And the more love that we can have for ourselves, genuine, true, unconditional love for ourselves, the better that we are able to show up for the people that we love. It sounds so ironic and backwards that the more you protect yourself, the more you can love others, or the more love that you have for yourself, the more capable and able you are to love others. But it is true, it's a real thing. So, in this situation where we are trying to grow our muscle of empathy in a healthy way for us as well, what would a boundary look like? Or where might you need boundaries? Because a lot of times, if I say something like this, the other person's reaction might be, okay, well, so if my friend calls me up and tells me something really hard that they're dealing with, if I want to hold a boundary and, not be consumed by this, what do I just hang up on them and say, oh, sorry, I can't listen to this today. I need to hold a boundary for myself. No, there is so much middle ground in between being consumed by something that isn't yours to carry and just hanging up on the person and saying, sorry, I can't listen to this. Now, look, there are situations where it would be appropriate to say, I love you and I can't be this person for you today. I just don't have the capacity to listen to this. Maybe you have patterns in your, maybe you have patterns in one relationship that you can think of where this person is just constantly dumping on you and calls or wants to get together and it's the same thing for years. That might be a boundary where, in order to protect yourself and love yourself and be able to show up for this person, you might literally have to say, I love you and I can't be this for you today. When we are growing our empathy muscle and learning how to set boundaries for this, it really might not be so black or white. So, what might it look like here? It's going to look like knowing your limits. You are the only one who truly knows whether or not you are being consumed by these struggles that aren't yours. Maybe for you, it's really challenging to watch the news or to read news articles or to get into the details of current events. There are certain times in your life where you are better able to not be consumed by those things and you can be really informed. And there are going to be other times in your life where it's going to be a really good and healthy idea for you to set some real clear boundaries for yourself. Maybe you don't turn the news on at all. Maybe you unfollow news accounts. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't know anything that's going on. It doesn't mean we don't care. It doesn't mean that we don't get involved in a healthy way for us in causes and ways and issues that really matter to us. But if you find yourself consumed, pay attention and listen to your limits. This takes me into our next strategy. And that is a really important part when you are setting boundaries like this is to listen to your body. If you aren't able to sleep, if you can't eat, you're so upset. If you can't focus on the things that are yours, this is a clue that you need a boundary. So listen to your body. And I'm not saying never be uncomfortable. That is a really important part of being a human is to learn how to be uncomfortable. But what I am talking about is if you find yourself not able to function, take a step back and take a look at what might be contributing to that. Listen to your body and know your limits. Kind of along with this, learning how to and practice saying no. Some people are really good at this, some people are not good at it. And I know that there are relationships in our lives where it's a lot easier to say no than with other relationships. And that's okay. Our boundaries are for us, not about the other person. But again, it is possible to have empathy and still protect your well being and not be consumed. It is possible to say, I love you so much, and I can't do that right now. The last piece that I want to talk about with boundaries is communicating your boundaries. Now, sometimes this is appropriate and other times it's not. You are allowed to have a boundary that you don't tell the other person about. You are allowed to just hold that boundary and they don't have to know about it. This might be limiting access to you when it comes to that other person. Maybe your boundary is I'm only going to answer one phone call a day from this person. It's all I can do. It's the only way that I can really stay healthy and empathetic. You don't have to tell that person if you call me 8 times, I'm only going to pick up the phone once. And again, this is not a one size fits all. I'm simply bringing up some things for you to think about. If you have a kid who really needs you and is in crisis, I'm not suggesting that you don't answer their phone call. I'm just saying in certain situations, it might be appropriate to limit access that that person has to you. That's just what I mean. And I'm also suggesting that you don't have to tell that person all the time what your boundaries are, because your boundaries are for you and about you, and they are to protect you and help you love yourself more and better. And again, ironically, the more love we have for us, the better we're able to love other people and show up more authentically and more beautifully for them. So, self love maybe is selfish, and that means that being selfish is not bad all the time. Okay, another piece is caring for yourself. So here's a really plain and simple way that for me is really helpful to think about self-care in the most basic of ways. And that's when they tell you on an airplane that if there is a loss of pressure and the oxygen masks fall down, please secure your own mask before assisting others. And why do they say that? They say that because if you pass out, you're of no help to anybody else on the plane. So, self care is putting your own oxygen mask on, which helps you to show up for everybody else. It's the only way. Put your own oxygen mask on. You can't pour from an empty cup. This idea that self-care matters. It is vital, especially if you want to become more empathetic, if you want to show up better and bigger in your life for yourself and for other people. You can't neglect yourself. This matters more than any of us realizes, I believe. Okay, so self-care. Let's talk about a few ways that aren't just go get a pedicure or get a massage. I love massages and pedicures, but that's not what I mean really by self-care. I mean, move your body. Two really important parts of this, I think, are getting outside and connecting with nature, breathing fresh air, noticing what is outside in the world is so restorative. Okay, along with moving your body, you have to fuel your body in a way that serves it. If we just fill our bodies with crap all the time, we're not going to feel good. Our body doesn't like it and it feels kind of terrible. So that's going to look different for everybody. Figure out what feels good to you, what fuel you give your body that it really likes and helps it show up well. And what I mean by show up, in all the ways, show up and you're able to focus better or accomplish more. You're able to sleep better. You're able to move better. All of these things, they all kind of intertwine, and that is amazing. It means that when you are doing one piece of self-care, it's affecting all these other areas that also are so good for you. So move your body, fuel your body, rest your body, get enough sleep. This is hard to do, or it can be. It feels like an indulgent luxury sometimes, but really, it is so important and it matters. If you don't get enough sleep, everything else in your life suffers. So make it a priority. Get enough sleep. Check in with your body. Learn what it's telling you and learn how to listen to it because your body speaks to you. This might be some mindfulness exercises. It might be grounding practice and help you get into your body, into the present, and to just sit there for a minute and notice what it is that your body is trying to tell you. Intentionally surround yourself with people who fill you up. And again, this doesn't just have to mean a boys' trip for the weekend or girls' lunches every Wednesday. Again, I am all in for those kinds of things, but it could just mean, you know what? I want to move my body and I want to get out in nature and I want to be with people. Is there a way that I can make all of those things happen at once? There sure is. There are ways and groups in which you can move your body and be outside. For me, I love group fitness. My body loves it. My soul loves it. My social part of me loves it. And so I have found a group who fills me up. I am accomplishing several parts to my self-care when I go to that group exercise class regularly. Okay, so these are some things that I just wanted to suggest to you of things that you might want to think about if you also want to start to grow your empathy without letting it consume you. And I want to suggest to you that that is the most beautiful way to show up for those that we love and that we care about. Because again, if we don't have our oxygen mask on, we can't help other people. If we are completely consumed by their struggles, we can't be helpful to them. It is possible to be empathetic in such a real, beautiful, valuable way without being consumed. So, my friends, that's what I have for you today. As always, come and find me in all the places at Meg the Divorce Coach. And if you want to talk about any of these things in more detail, I would love to meet you. Come and book a free coaching session. megthedivorcecoach.com/free coaching, or shoot me a message and I'll send you the link. I would love to meet you and talk to you about anything that you've heard me talk about here on the podcast. I can't wait to meet you. Have a wonderful week, my friends. I'll see you next time.